Hello and welcome to the EdHeroes Global Forum 2025. I'm Dale Johnson and I'll be talking today about digitally enabled learning and teaching approaches. I am the Senior Director of Digital Innovation at the University Design Institute at Arizona State University, and I have degrees in architecture, engineering, and my graduate school at Harvard University. I'm excited to be with you today because our university at Arizona State has been growing quite dramatically in digitally enabled learning and teaching over the last 16 years. Today we have more than 100,000 students fully online, and those students represent more than half of our total enrollment. So it's an exciting time to be working on digital innovation. We've also been honored with the most innovative university in the United States for 10 years in a row. We're very proud of the fact that we're using digital technologies to enable our students to be more successful. The university is located in the southwestern region of the United States. If you're familiar with Los Angeles and Las Vegas, we're about a 1-hour plane ride from each of those cities. And we have the Grand Canyon in our state of Arizona. We're very proud of the fact that we have one of the 7 wonders of the world. We also are located in the Sonoran Desert, which you may recognize from the old Western movies with the traditional saguaro cactus. Now, I work at the University Design Institute, where we're focused on transforming higher education, and our clients are worldwide. So it's an exciting time for me to speak with you because we are working in countries from Asia to Africa to Latin America, and we're excited about the opportunities that digital innovation presents to all of our colleagues around the world. Now, the University Design Institute is focused on reimagining, redesigning, and rebuilding our educational institutions. We work with universities on developing good mission statements, on leadership and culture challenges, financial models and partnerships, investigation discovery, digital solutions, and teaching and learning. And I'll be talking today about the last two of those, digital solutions and teaching and learning, and the overlap between them here. The question that I was asked to address is, how can we use digital systems and resources to create learner experiences that enable student success? And this represents a challenge globally for all of us in the educational sector. I'm speaking today about higher education, but it also applies obviously to primary and secondary education. So what I want to do today is I want to think about this from a learner-centric vision. And I want you to think about this a little differently than you may have in the past. Our approach to digital education has been focused primarily on processes like online education, remote education, hybrid, and you probably heard all of these terms used interchangeably, blended education, flipped learning, hyflex. All of these are representations of the approach that we apply. And what I want you to do is I want you to change your mindset. So today we're going to talk more about the approach of a student learner perspective. If we flip this mirror, we're looking at this from a student perspective. Digital learning can enrich the student experience, can extend the learner experience, can enhance, and can expand. All 4 of these are different ways that we can help our students succeed using digital education. And I want to give you a perspective on this from 2 different axes. Technology is horizontal axes from local to global, and pedagogy is on the vertical axes from the traditional to transformed. So when I talk about enriched digital learning, we're talking about a traditional course with added digital resources. And I'll elaborate more on each of these as we go through the presentation. For extended digital learning, we're talking about traditional course synchronously broadcast online. You may think of that as our COVID response. For enhanced, we're talking about technology used to transform the course pedagogy. That's an important difference, the transformation. And then for expanded, we're talking about fully online with asynchronous delivery of instruction. And that is what Arizona State University Online is doing. So these 4 E's represent a learner-centric approach to our digital innovation. Digitally enriched education really is a combination of the technology infrastructure. If you're using a digital learning environment like Moodle or Google Classroom or one of the others, then you're placing your educational resources online. Things like your syllabus, your reading material, your interactive exercises, perhaps some quizzes and videos. All of those create a digitally enriched learning experience. For digital extended learning experience, we're talking about what we all experienced during COVID-19, where we were broadcasting our learning out to our students. And this type of digital extension actually has a long history, starting with radio and then through mail and television. And today we're using Teams and Zoom and Meet, but it's really a digital extension of our traditional lecture model. Digitally enhanced learning is where we start to transform the relationship between the technology and the pedagogy. So I want you to think about Bloom's taxonomy in this context. The digital instruction can occur before class. Basic Bloom's like understand and remember, we can accomplish online, and that frees up time for the interactive learning in class. And that's what we mean by transforming the pedagogy. So we want to focus our time in class on applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating higher order Bloom's thinking. Now we do that using a process model that's different from our traditional instructional process. We take all of the instructional resources and we place them online so the students can acquire and assess their knowledge before they come to class. This is where you'll recognize a flipped, blended, or hybrid model from our previous process descriptions. So digitally enhanced learning uses those approaches to then free us to spend time in class doing interactive exercises. This is the transformation that really improves the learning outcomes for the students and enhances their experience. The last step in this process is assimilation. So these 4 A's, acquire, assess, apply, and assimilate, create a lesson plan that we can then replicate over time. So for instructors, you can build your course around this model. Each week, you can have a series of interactive exercises that you're doing with your students in class, and you can still have your traditional exams and your labs and other types of activities built into this. This is just one example of a curriculum that you might use for biology, for example. Now, digitally enhanced is another version, as I mentioned, of this flipped model. So when I think about this, I think about the elimination of lecture. We don't need to lecture anymore because we have videotaped all of that material and the students can watch it asynchronously before class. Then they do the assessment, as I mentioned, the formative assessment online, which generates the data that we can use to help them when they get to class. So we're talking about the asynchronous delivery, and then in class we have a synchronous model where the students are working together in small teams to help them learn the basic instructional resources and also additional skills that we think of as the higher order learning skills. Often when we talk about the collaboration, communication, creativity, those are the types of higher order skills that we can use in the enhanced model. Now, digitally expanded model, as I mentioned, is fully online. This is an asynchronous model that has grown quite dramatically in the last 20 years in the United States and elsewhere around the world. And what we're really thinking about here is we're thinking about ways to reach new learners that were not able to come to the university. At Arizona State University, as you can see here, our primary growth has been online, and we've found that the learners from, let's say, ages 25 to 65 are seeking out learning opportunities, but they can't quit their job or move to a university or have some other break in their career. So this provides them with an opportunity to continue learning throughout their lifetime. And digitally expanded education is really the new frontier for a lot of institutions around the world. So which of these different E's in the model meets your students' needs? You may be doing all of them. At Arizona State University, we are doing all 4 of these different approaches to a learner-centric model. But you may be doing one or more, and I encourage you to think about these as independent. You can do one or more of them without worrying about whether they're sequential, because they are really interrelated in their approach. So if you have an enriched model, you have the digital learning environment with no change in pedagogy, you think about that as your basic infrastructure with Moodle or Canvas or one of the other techniques. And that might be referred to as traditional, common, or standard model. Then if you look at an extended model, we're broadcasting the class with no change in pedagogy. This would be through Zoom, Teams, Meet, something like that. And that's something we've done in the past, as I mentioned, especially during COVID, where we were forced into the extended model. For the enhanced model, this is where the digital learning environment enables us to transform to an interactive pedagogy. We're going to record all of our lectures and place them in our DLE. That's then going to be used to create a blended, flipped, or hybrid class. And finally, when we talk about the expanded model, we're providing an asynchronous learning experience to reach new students through recorded lectures. And that's something you might refer to as online, e-learning, distance, or virtual learning. Each of these E's has value for our learners, and you can develop strategies and tactics in each area that will assist your learners with their process. Obviously, there are costs and there are benefits to these, and so I want to talk a little bit about impact. If we're moving from enriched to expanded, we're moving from a tactical to a strategic transformation. So you have to think about that as from a low to a high complexity, and also from low to high cost. So as you're planning out your approach to digitally enabled learning and teaching, you can think about how much resources you have and how much time you have and how much support you have to make these kinds of transformations. Each institution will have to make this decision for themselves. And finally, as part of this approach, you have to think about your leadership support. I like to think of this as 4 levels of leadership that we have to align in order to be successful. So we need faculty leadership, we need the department chairperson to be a leader, we need the college dean, and we need the university provost to all be focused on the digitally enabled learning. That's the equation for success. So as you think about your institution and your future, look to your leaders to align their vision for the future so that you can have success in this area. I like to finish with this quote from Tom Kelly, the CEO of IDEO. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. So I want to encourage you to take action and to develop your prototypes, to experiment and to explore this new frontier of digitally enabled learning and teaching, and to continue to be creative. This is a time when we can embrace the uncertainty and the risk and look forward to the benefits from these types of innovations. So again, I'm Dale Johnson, Senior Director of Digital Innovation at the University Design Institute at Arizona State University. Feel free to follow up with me at dale.johnson@asu.edu if you have any further questions. And good luck with your digitally enabled learning and teaching approach.